especially for those of you who were able to join us in person today. We really appreciate you coming out on a Saturday. My name is Kim Stoker, by the way. So today we're going to be talking about giving you some historical context on the special adoption law, primarily focusing really on this revision that happened in 2011 and sort of how we got there into how we're going into 2022 when we're anticipating another revision this year at the National Assembly. So we wanted to sort of inform our community about how we got to where we are now, because I think the special adoption law is something that's even complicated for us, and just to kind of have this session so we can bring some of the faces that have been behind implementing these revisions so people can see us and see who we are and how we've had so many allies along the way, and share some of the more personal sides of the story. We're actually in the process of making a video, and we're making a video that's going to share with the community about the special adoption law. And so that's sort of like, we're in the production process right now. And so we're hoping to have that done in the fall. We have received funds from the NCRC to host this event. And the seminar does not reflect any of the opinions of the NCRC. Maybe some of you have been wondering, what is IbyangIN? And some of you that are maybe familiar with some of the adoptee activism that's been happening, you might say, oh, is it another adoptee organization? Who are these people? This is our first event as IbyangIN. So we're really happy to be hosting an event live, because I know it's been a really long time since we've had a live event. And for everybody that can join us on Zoom, it's awesome. So one of the things I wanted to just mention for those of you who might not know about IbyangIN, Ibyang is in Korean, it can be a verb, it can be a noun. And in the past, our community was referred to as Ibyang-ah, which is like an adopted child. And so over years of activism, we've really been able to change how we're talked about in the Korean community. And so we're more often referred to as IbyangIN now, and in means person or adult. And so we thought that IbyangIN, Ibyang International Network, would be a great name for our community, and also just kind of revealing how we've been able to change how in South Korea, how people talk about our community. And so that's kind of where our name came from. So you might also be wondering, how did we get started? So we started this group as a kind of a response to a really tragic event that happened that some of you might be familiar with, which was the death of a domestic adoptee in 2020, the Jung-in case. And so after that was very large media news here in South Korea, and we kind of wonder, well, how can the adoptee community overseas get involved in some of these issues that are happening in South Korea and maintain being informed as well? And so that was kind of the impetus for starting IbyangIN. So we really wanted to reach out and sort of keep the global community in touch with what's happening here in South Korea. And so today there are 3 founders of IbyangIN present. Myself, I just flew in from America yesterday, so I'm really happy to be here. It's been 3 years since I was here. Boon here on the end, and then Ben Ko's here on the tech side. So we're all 3 founding members of IbyangIN, so it's really great. And then we have our several of our other members, Australia, Canada, and in the US also, and Denmark. So welcome, thank you so much for showing up, and it's really good to see all of you. It's been 3 years, at least, since I was last here myself. I'm gonna start off with Pilkyu as the lawyers group, 공감.
Hi, I'm Pilkyu Hwang. I'm a lawyer working with an organization called 공감 Human Rights Law Foundation. It's a non-profit, full-time human rights lawyers group in Korea. We do a lot of work on migrants' rights, refugee rights, rights of the persons with disabilities and LGBTI. So we do a lot of work on litigation, law reform, and training and research. That's my organization.
So my first question for you is, you, as the executive director of 공감, the Human Rights Law Foundation, which starting in 2009, you guys were very integral in working with a coalition for these special adoption law revisions. And so I was really just interested in hearing you share how 공감, the public interest lawyers group, got involved in this special adoption law revision.
So it was one day in 2008. Boon and Pastor Kim and Jane Chakajong visited my office and met me and Rami, one of my former colleagues at the time, and told us there's serious issues, serious problems with this adoption process. And they filed a complaint to this Anti-Corruption and Civil Rights Commission. And they got a reply that their case was dismissed because of this statute of limitation. And so they demand, they asked us, we need truth and justice. And we thought at the time, because of these legal kind of issues, maybe it's very difficult to actually resolve individual cases. But maybe it's possible to actually, have this law revised to make sure that there will be no, similar instances in the future. But at the time we researched and we learned some facts from our friends that, we are really shocked by the fact that, all this issue of fake documents and manipulated documents, and all this issue of, relinquishing your children, your baby before the baby were born, and the issue of this, really huge amounts of this adoption processing fees. And we were also really shocked by the fact that 1/3 of international adoptees are from Korea. So we decided to work on this law reform with the adopters themselves and the other organizations that working on, giving those interests.
So, I was wondering also, with your experience as a human rights lawyer, can you share with our audience what, if any, are the comparisons or differences or similarities between other issues that are very sort of hot, controversial topics in South Korea, such as the Sewol ferry accident and adoption and the adoption issue?
So as I mentioned, my main area of practice migrant workers, refugees, and business and human rights, disaster and human rights. So I always meet all these victims of different human rights violations. To be honest, for me, before I met Boon and Pastor Kim, adoption is something beautiful. It's, giving you a second chance. So I really kind of envy or respect those who all these adoptive parents. But meeting people and getting really into this issue, I realized that I had a very wrong perception and idea about this adoption and issues concerned with adoption. That's the difference from the other areas of my work, because in other areas, I thought, when I really into this issue, I realized that the situation is much worse than I expected. But I have my expectations and I had my directions. But adoption, it totally changed my perception. That there was a huge difference from the other areas of my practice.
So it sounds like your introduction to folks like Pastor Kim and Han Boon-young, that it changed on a personal level for you. How did that, let's say, expand from your personal perspective on adoption changing to having Gongam be involved as a lawyers organization with the special adoption law divisions?
So, before we started to work on this adoption issue, we have been involved in other child issues, children's rights issues, like child abuse and some other issues. So we have been very interested in child issues, but adoption is a issue that we have never encountered. But meeting people and doing some research, we thought this is really serious issue, and I think it's all related to the alternative child care and single mother care and all this family system. So I think we can start with this adoption issue and expand our work to protection of single mothers and other issues. So we decided on to begin with, just focus on the law reform of these adoption issues.
So when this adoption law was beginning to in 2009, starting actually from 2009 until the special adoption law in 2011 passed, there was a coalition, including Gongam, including many other organizations. And so we called this a coalition. So I was wondering, what were your impressions of the tasks that were the most important back then in 2009, 2010? What were the most important things that we were looking to reform or change with the special adoption law revision back then?